Okay, why don't we get started? I am Peg Keough here with my partner in crime, Matt Carpenter, otherwise known as Carpy. And I am outside of Seattle. He's outside of Boston. He'll give you the lowdown. If you're new to our webinars, we are College Aid Pro. And our mission is really to end the student loan crisis by empowering families to shop smarter for college. That's just a fancy way of saying, at least for me, that we're educating you about this whole college process, the financial piece of it, so that you guys are informed consumers. And then when you're an informed consumer, you've got the power and you can be proactive as you're guiding your kids to build their college list. And I know we have a lot of people here that have probably been on our webinars, and you're in the fun stage where your kids are getting in. And you're thinking about, how am I going to put this all together? You're getting award letters. You might reach out to the colleges, and private scholarships might be on your mind. We're doing this very intentionally this time of year. So we will talk about private scholarships. We're also going to share a few little tidbits about private scholarships, but I'll just introduce myself real quick. So I have twins that are done with college. But I went through this process. I saw at least one person said they have twins. I've been there as a parent. So it's possible to get through this with not as much stress. And if you are an informed consumer, that helps a lot. My background's in the financial industry. And then I started focusing just on this instead of the comprehensive financial planning. About 10 years ago, started my own business and then joined the team at College Aid Pro. And a couple of years ago, like in 2021, there's another twin. So very excited to be here to get you guys educated and schooled up on all things free money. That's what we're really talking about tonight. So Matt, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself?
Thank you. You forgot your title, the fairy godmother of financial aid. So I'll do it for you. But yeah, so I'm out here, like Peg said, in the Boston area, just north of Boston, Salem, Mass. And Peg and I are very much aligned, especially with our mission and just trying to help guide families through this process in such a way that we're maximizing our odds of having good outcomes for the student, right? The student gets to graduate and not have this insane amount of debt, and mom and dad get to retire someday. That's the goal, right? In layman's terms here. But there's no silver bullet, right? There's no easy way to do this. And private scholarships, I think, comes with a little bit of a myth in terms of, is this the silver bullet? Maybe there's this hidden treasure chest and only folks in the know where to go to find it. And good news, bad news. The bad news is that's more of a myth than reality, right? There's not this kind of secret slush fund that we can give you access to because it doesn't exist, right? So part of the get tonight is to level set expectations. I'm confident, and Peg and I are going to walk you through it. There's a right way to go about maximizing your efficiencies in obtaining private scholarships, right? But it's a small piece of this huge puzzle, okay? So we're going to make sure that you do that right by the time you leave here tonight. We're also going to talk about other scholarships. Even if you're a class of 2023, that's still relevant with the colleges themselves, okay? So we'll spend a minute there. And then we're going to end just teasing another really important part of the process when we talk about free money. And you class 2023s, if you're not in the thick of it, you're about to be. And that's getting these offers, financial offers from the colleges in which you've been accepted. Now, how do we go back and get some more money? I know that's a little bit different than private scholarships, but it's still important to talk about.
I already answered a question about it, so we're right at the...
So I promise we will end tonight providing some information on that piece, and then promise over the coming weeks, that's all. This is, I think, Peggy, I'm pretty sure this is our last presentation on private scholarships. After this, through the spring, really, we're all how to appeal for more money. So stay engaged with us, but we will talk about it tonight because it's timely. But anyways, we're psyched to be here.
All right. And just, I apologize ahead of time. I'm fighting some sinus infection thing. So if I have to get a drink of water here and there, just bear with me. So that is us and our mission. There's the happy couple. And Matt's going to take a minute because all you guys that registered would have gotten an email. We're encouraging you to set up your free MyCap account.
Yeah. So if you haven't done that, we pinged you earlier. I recommend you take probably literally a minute or two right now, set it up. It's a free account, but a couple things that it's going to do that you'll get value out of tonight. The biggest one, again, especially from 2023 families, we're going to be able to tell you, did you get a fair offer from these colleges in which you've been accepted and have gotten an offer, right? You want to be able to gut check and hold these colleges accountable if maybe you got under awarded, which is very common. So that's the first thing you want to do. And there's also, obviously, tonight you guys are here to learn primarily about private scholarships. We got some great resources there around private scholarships specifically as well. So those are just a couple pieces of value add that you'll get from that platform, but we'll be in and out of it tonight because it's the easiest way to teach some of these concepts. And again, personalize it for you. So instead of speaking in general terms, it allows you to drill down to your personal situation. So again, if you haven't set that account up, I recommend you do it right now.
I put the link in the chat. In the chat. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's get going here. Just a reminder to put your questions in the queue and
chat. Thank you. Yeah. Please put the questions in the Q&A, guys, because that way they're transcribed, recorded, you get them afterwards. And that's where Peggy and I are living. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we can't get into this without just doing very high level. What is financial aid? So all of these colleges have their sticker price, their cost of attendance, but they're all discounting that price. And they do it in one of three ways. They do it with need-based grants, and they're usually called grants, sometimes scholarships, based on financial needs. So you submit financial aid forms, all you 23 parents, you've all done that, hopefully, right? You've met your deadlines, you've got those forms in. If you have financial need, colleges will give need-based grants. The second bucket is merit-based scholarships. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, because in actuality, private scholarships make up about 5 to 6% of the money that pays for college. So most of the money comes from college endowments, right? Either in the form of need-based grants or merit-based scholarships. So we want you to be schooled up on these merit-based scholarships so you understand it. And some of you might already have kids that are getting awards with merit, and I'm already getting questions about it. And we will touch on it at the end, even though we're not going into detail on appeals. We'll talk about, yes, you can even appeal merit-based scholarships. So that's that second bucket, is merit-based money. Both of these are free money, no repaying, right out of the endowment. The last bucket is self-help. So that's going to be loans and work study. That does cut the cost of college, but you either have to work for it or you have to pay it back. Okay. So that's how it works. So the need-based aid, very simple how they figure this out. They take their sticker price, the cost of attendance, tuition and fees, room and board, books, travel, personal expenses, all those line items rolled into the total. And then they calculate something called an expected family contribution, EFC. That's the amount the college thinks you can afford to pay for a year of college. So, for example, cost of attendance, $80,000, your EFC is 60, then you have need of $20,000. So that college might give you, colleges on your child's list, might give your child need-based grants. They might need all of that. They might need 70% of it. Just depends on the school. So that's really how need-based financial aid works. The whole thing is around what are your EFCs, and we're going to show you that in a minute, but what are your EFCs? We're not going to get into the weeds on the different EFCs, but you should have an idea of what your EFCs are to know if you're getting a good deal to appeal eventually. So what if your EFC is $100,000? There might be some people thinking, I know my EFCs, I went into my cap, it's really high. Then you're not going to get those need-based grants at any school. So that discount bucket is off the table. So really merit is the name of the game. And where private scholarships come in is when you've maximized what you can get from the endowments, then you can fill that gap. Hopefully you have some money to put toward the cost, but then also that's the sweet spot in our minds for private scholarships, is to fill that gap. Matt, why don't you take a minute to talk about the merit scholarships? Do you want to go? You want me to?
Yeah, let me jump in.
Stop my share here.
So and guys, I know this is a little before we get right into the private scholarships. I told you, even for the class 2023, it's not too late to leverage scholarships from the colleges themselves. And that bucket of scholarships is way bigger than the private scholarships, and odds of obtaining them are usually higher. Okay. And it's not too late. So the reason why I want you to focus on the platform again is because this speaks specifically to your family. So we're not talking in general terms here, right? So it's going to tell you, here's your EFCs, just like Peg told you, this is your kind of foundation for figuring out, are you going to be eligible for need-based financial aid? How much at which colleges, right? So again, I told you we'll end tonight helping you figure out, did you get a good deal at these schools? But even now, we can look at a few things, right? So for the schools that you've applied to, okay, you can pop them in here and get a good idea of what scholarship should we expect from this school, right? So if we want to click on St. Anselm College, for example, okay, it's going to show us for whatever school we choose to take a closer look at. It's going to show us basically, number one, should we expect to get a scholarship there? Okay, if so, how much? And it'll show us every scholarship that particular college offers. What are the qualifications for each of these? And again, what's the likelihood of acceptance for my kid? We're going to give you an idea there. And you can get a better understanding of the why, right? If you click on their information, right? So you can say, okay, we're projecting, or it makes sense that my kid got this amount because here's the average GPA at this school, here's the average test scores, and obviously we have a good idea of where our kid ranks within those ranges, okay, at that particular school. Another thing that I want to bring your attention to, okay, is for every college, we have the average scholarship that they give per student on average, okay? At this particular school, it's $23,000. So if your kid got accepted to St. Anselm's College and got an $18,000 scholarship, this is a grounds for an appeal, okay? And even if they're not quite up to the average, maybe they are just a little bit below this, and that's why they got 18,000 instead of 23. We've still seen a ton of successful appeals just by saying, hey, my kid got in, they got a scholarship. Clearly there's some desire there, but they didn't even get the average. We'd like to appeal for that. Okay, so I'm showing you this because it's a really important data point and a way that you can potentially get more scholarship money out of the colleges that you're targeting specifically before we even go worry about our private scholarships. So that's why, again, I know it can feel a little bit strange of, hey, why am I here thinking about scholarships from the colleges themselves? That's why. And now I'll pass the buck to Peg where she can get into, we can break ground on the task at hand here, the private scholarship.
Okay, I'm just finishing my question here. Some of the questions we're getting, like about how does the EFC get calculated, that kind of stuff. We'll do our best to answer those. Please be on the lookout for upcoming webinars because we're going to do them on getting into, it's kind of financial aid 101, where we're going to get in the weeds on that, and we'll give you a really good overview of what EFCs are, how they differ, all that fun stuff. We're just not doing that tonight. We just did a high level on that. Okay. All right. So there's the merit piece. Yeah, merit scholarship piece. So there's a couple more slides here that you will get the deck. So you'll have these. Not all schools offer merit the same. In your MyCap portal, you'll see all of that because we actually tell you, which is what Matt just showed you. So let's talk about private scholarships. So how do these work? Who usually owns taking care of private scholarships? So I would say most of the responsibility is going to fall on your child. Very similar to applying for admission, right? All the schools have you have the Common App, but you have slightly different requirements. Some schools have their own application. With private scholarships, you're going to find them and you're going to just have to see what's required of all the different scholarships. There could be applications, there could be essays. I will say, try and help your kids and plant the seed for them to repurpose all the work they've already done. They've done essays. So if they can use those and they tweak them, they adequately answer questions on private scholarship apps, why not? Don't recreate the wheel. Don't start all over. If there are any financial requirements or any sort of disclosure that has to be done, that can fall on the parents. But the lion's share of it is going to fall on your child, very similar to the admission. So when does this all take place? It's going on right now, which is why we're doing these applications. We're doing these webinars. Most of them come out December through March. Most of them are awarded May, June, right at the end of senior year, these smaller private scholarships. So you want to get going on these. This is when it's going to happen, right? So what what can you realistically expect to get out of this? If you're familiar with Merit Aid, a lot of a Merit Aid is 5 figures times 4 years of aid. Private scholarships are very different. You're going to find a lot of smaller scholarships. So we're obviously averaging, but we want to give you an order of magnitude. If you're going to spend about 10 hours of time working on scholarship, you might get 1,000 to 3,000, right? You're going to put in a bunch of apps and some of them will probably come back positively. And most of them are for 1 year. So this is a side hustle that you're going to have for all 4 years of school. I will show you one in a few slides that is like the awesome private scholarship because it is for 4 years and it's full tuition and fees, but that's totally not the norm. There's $500 here, $1,500 here, and they're one-offs. And they might not even offer them after freshman year. You might have to go find other ones. And as I said, bottom bullet here, it's very similar to admissions and financial aid forms. There's always deadlines. You got to pay attention to the deadlines. If you miss them, you're probably out of luck. All right, so tip number 1, shop local. So the first thing you want to do is go into the counseling office because the counseling office usually knows about the local scholarships that are available. I can speak to this personally with my 2. They both applied to stuff right through the high school. Not as many kids do this as we have on the slide. 33% of seniors apply for this. They don't know about it. They don't want to do it. Whatever the reason, who cares? They're not applying, right? So much better odds. These big Coca-Cola scholarships that we all know about, that's a completely different ballgame. But these local ones, it's a great place. It's a really good place to start. December through March. And as I said, sometimes I jump ahead when I'm talking. I already said this one too, but May to June is when you're going to most likely, my kids, there was a little assembly in the gym and the local real estate agency, whoever was giving it out would come and award it. If you can actually get a check handed to your child, that's the best. Sometimes they'll say, where are you going to school? Are you going to BU? All right, we're going to send it directly there. And then it will basically, if it's $2,000, they'll dictate how it gets paid out. And it might be $1,000 a semester. It just comes right off of what you owe. So sometimes you don't have the choice, but if you do, ask to receive the funds because then you can use them for plane fare or whatever you want. That's something you can't pull out of a 529. But if you can't, if you win the money, it's a great deal. The next tip is, and I think Matt alluded to this and he'll show you real quick, in our paid version of the software, we do have a $9 billion plus private scholarship search in there. So he'll show it to you and people will say, how is this different than other ones we can find? Well, one main thing is you won't get inundated with email after you go onto ours because we're not selling email addresses. Some of the ones out there, you'll notice if you go on there, all of a sudden you or your child's getting inundated with funky emails because your email's out there. So I will stop sharing for a minute, Matt, and let you go in.
Listen, basically any private scholarship search engine, we're all pulling from this, that's on the nationwide level. We're all pulling from the same common data set. Okay. I obviously can't speak to any companies specifically outside of ours, but there's basically one common data set. And the idea is to aggregate them in one place and allow you to filter to maximize your odds of at least being efficient and applying to scholarships where your kid or if you're a student, where you are more likely to have a real shot at this thing. We're not completely just throwing darts here, right? Peg mentioned this is a paid part of our platform, maybe a little bit of a self-serving part of the presentation here, but I want to say a couple things around that. Number one, the all-in version of our platform costs $149, okay, for the year. But if you can't afford that, you just write into support@collegeaidpro.com and we get you on there for free. So that's one thing I want to say. Number two, if you're not in that category and you still want all the bells and whistles to our platform, sit tight. Don't try to upgrade right now or anything, because when we end tonight, we'll have a promotion. We always do what I think are really generous promotions for our live attendees. Okay. So if you can't afford it and you want it, just write into us if you would like it, and you can't afford it, just sit tight because we'll give you the coupon code at the end here tonight. And something that I'll also say, and I think Peg will back me up here, I would not invest in our platform just for the private scholarship search engine. Okay. It's a nice value add, but I don't think it's enough. I'm not confident enough to say if you pay $149, you're definitely going to win at least that back through our private scholarship search engine. There's decent odds that you will, but private scholarships in general it's a little bit of a crapshoot, right? So anyways, hopefully that context is helpful, but here's how we use it, right? So you saw me click on the search for scholarships, and what I recommend, at least for a starting point, is start in your state. Peg already gave you the best tip that you're going to receive tonight. Focus all of your efforts on private scholarships, or the lion's share of them, locally. That's where we'll never use the word guaranteed, but have a very good odds. If you put the emphasis on your local opportunities, you're going to get something. Okay. But then go to the state level. So I'm here in Mass. So I might say, hey, go show me all the Massachusetts scholarships. Okay. And then you can maybe drill down from there and say, okay, I know or at least I'm thinking about pursuing accounting, and maybe I'm a female student. Okay. So this would be a scholarship. If I'm a Massachusetts resident, a female that's thinking about pursuing accounting, there's probably not an insane amount of applicants for this scholarship that's pretty generous here, right? So that's the concept. That's how you want to go after scholarships on a national level, right? Try by the state, and then when you go out nationally, try to search by some filters that are more specific to your situation. Okay, so that's that piece of the puzzle, but it is, in my opinion, as good a resource as you're going to find when you go to look for scholarships on the national level here.
Okay.
You're
Right.
muted, baby.
I know. I didn't want people to hear me coughing. Okay. Next tip. When you're doing this, just create a new email around this and or your child, make it a professional email, because you're applying for scholarships and they want to be impressed by the applicant. So do something that's presentable. And your kids should really, I know we have on here once a week, excuse me, but I even recommend it a couple times a week. And I know kids, mine are in their 20s, emails archaic, but it's really important, not just for private scholarships, it's important just for the colleges in general, because they might be communicating with your child once they accept somewhere about housing, about, hey, you need to take this math test to see where you place, whatever it is. So you want to make sure they're checking their mail. So it's good practice anyways, because they might be reaching out about a given scholarship to say, hey, you were awarded it, or we need more information, or maybe you got to the next round, if it's something like that, whatever. So just get them in the practice of checking their email. If they get something, they don't understand it, they just forward it to you. So you're can help them in that way. Just like everything in this process, deadlines are super important. They're important with financial aid forms, they're important with admissions applications, and they're important here, right? If you miss the deadline with a private scholarship, you're probably completely out of luck. With financial aid forms, you might end up in the second bucket, so it's not helping you, but it might not completely hurt you. It just depends on the college. But here, you're probably stuck. So make sure your kids it's a good life skill, right? They've got to be organized, and they've got to understand that they have to stick to deadlines. I know sometimes in the schools can be loosey-goosey around this, which I personally don't agree with. They should be making sure these kids are telling the mark. It just helps them when they become adults. But if you are sending something electronically, capture that, print a PDF and save it, just so you've got a copy in case it doesn't make it there. If you're mailing anything, definitely make copies of stuff. Same thing with the colleges. Make sure everything you're sending out, if you're sending appeals information through the mail for a given reason, it'll save you a lot of headache if somebody says they don't get it. And if this is really something you're going to go for, and I use the term side hustle, we recommend you sit down with your child and maybe say, you know what, you're going to dedicate 2 to 3 hours a week. If it's 2 1.5 hour slots, put in the headphones and go to town looking for scholarships and doing applications, yada, yada, because that's the only way it's going to happen, right? To be very deliberate and intentional about it. It's important for a lot of reasons, but we're going to hit it here for private scholarships to complete your financial aid application. So every year I've been doing this, parents are like, I don't want to do the FAFSA. My neighbors didn't do the FAFSA. It's not going to get me anywhere. Some of these private scholarships are going to say, we want the FAFSA information, right? And if they do, and your child's applying, needs to be on file, you're just going to have to do it. This is not the main reason to do the FAFSA. It's even more important because some schools want it on file for the merit scholarships that Matt talked about earlier, among other reasons. So just submit the FAFSA. Most people need to be submitting the FAFSA and the CSS profile if it's applicable, just so that they're not leaving money on the table. To maximize, remember, we're going to maximize that endowment money that you're going to get. So get that FAFSA done. That's your step in the process as a parent, because most of them are going to want this on file. And make sure you know which colleges and scholarships require this. I had my kids, they had a binder, right? I'm dating myself. And then they had all the different requirements for those schools. And if they were doing any outside scholarships, just write along there, because there's no way you can keep all this in your head. Okay. Just be on top of all that stuff. We usually get this question. And so this is a really important thing to talk through, the concept of scholarship displacement. So what this means is your child does work, finds scholarships, and typically, as I said earlier, these scholarships are sent to the college. Even if they're not, the rules are it's an outside resource and you're supposed to report it to the college. Does everybody do that gets a check handed to them? That's on them, what they do. But if the college knows about it, and especially if it hits up at the bursar's office against your bill, what colleges will do is they will say, oh, this student got a $5,000 scholarship. How did we award this student? And they'll look at the package, and sometimes they will pull back some of the award that the student got from the college. Basically the endowment money. So let me give you an example from a family 2 years ago or 3 years ago. She got into Stanford. Their EFC was about $45,000, $50,000. So there was some need there because Stanford cost 70 or 75 at the time. So Stanford meets 100% of need. So they came in and they gave them a subsidized loan, work study, and the rest of it was a nice big Stanford grant. She's a Girl Scout. She got a big Girl Scout scholarship. That's an outside scholarship. $15,000. So I asked them to get the Girl Scouts to break it into 2 years, which they were able to do, which was good. But still, that $7,500 was going to Stanford. So Stanford sees that. Stanford doesn't say, oh, that's going to eat into the parents' EFC. So their EFC is now, they don't have to pay $7,500 of what we think they can afford. That's what they should do, but that's not what they do. So they say, all right, we're going to take that off of our package. So most colleges will take off the loans first, which is fine, but get rid of those loans. And then they'll take off the work study, but it did eat into the Stanford grant. So it was good for that student because she didn't have the loans and the work study, but basically it saved Stanford some money, which they don't really need. They've got plenty of money to award all the kids full rides, right? So this is this concept of scholarship displacement. It almost always is just a need-based aid play. So if your child gets $20,000 in a trustee merit scholarship, knock on wood, I've never seen, and I don't think Matt has either, a college decrease that, because that's coming from the Office of Admissions. They could give, they don't care. They do not care of your ability to pay. They just want to entice that student to come because they want that student on campus. So that's not going to.
Were you about to swear, Peg?
I was about to swear, and Matt likes to swear, and I always say, you can't be swearing on webinars. Anyways, so I wouldn't be concerned about it if you're getting merit awards, but if you're getting need-based aid, and I just met with a mom today, and she said, is this going to happen? I said, it could, because she's got a lot of need-based aid from her daughter from Duke. Should I even bother? Because we're just going to lose our grants if they're meeting 100% of need. So we just want everybody to know that, because I hate to have you spend time and your child spends time and then you don't feel like you're ahead of the game. But a lot of times it's great because it fills a gap. The college doesn't meet all your need, or you're not getting need-based aid. So it's not all the time, but we just want you to know. And if it does happen, absolutely talk to the college and appeal on it. The worst thing that can happen is they say, sorry, that's our policy. And you know what? If you have several schools that it happens at, a couple of them are willing to give and the other one isn't, just choose not to go there. The more options you have and your child has, you can go from there. So that's the concept of scholarship displacement. All right, this is the scholarship that I was talking about earlier. So you will get the deck and you'll have this URL. This is applicable. So I know we have tons of 2023 parents. If you have younger kids, this is applicable to you. The deadline is long gone. This is one of these. This is more like a Coca-Cola big one. And those, they don't start right now. They've started a while ago. That's the other thing to keep in mind. The bigger scholarships, they don't start middle of senior year. What we're focusing on tonight are the smaller ones. Most people know about Coca-Cola, right? We're trying to fill you in on the smaller ones. And this one is a nicer one. It's full tuition and fees. So if you have a junior, it's just going live right about now, because I got the email saying, hey, it's going live for the class of 24. And the first deadline's May, second deadline September of senior year. If it's applicable for your child, get it in May. It is a better chance. They take 3,000 apps. They pick 20 Cameron scholars. It's an awesome scholarship if it works out. Just check out the website. Have your child check out the website if it works, and tell us if you apply and get it. That will make our day. Okay, so those are the tips and tricks about private scholarships. Just want to mention, this is off topic, and we'll talk about this on other webinars. And you might have already heard us, but the FAFSA Simplification Act was passed back in 2020, the end of 2020. It was embedded in the coronavirus relief bill. And there's a bunch of things that are changing. So make sure you watch our webinar invites. But a big one that we really are pushing is, and I know we have some twins families here, the current rules when you're calculating an EFC on the FAFSA is, if you have more than one in school, your EFC is almost cut in half, which makes sense. If you have a certain amount of income, certain amount of assets, and you have one child in school, and then your younger one comes in, or you have two at once, like I did, you don't have double the income. So whatever you can afford should be divided. If you have 4 kids, quadruplets, divide it by 4. It's decided they're getting rid of that. And we have a petition, Matt can put it in the chat for you guys, to basically say, hey, this doesn't make sense. You need to revisit this. And we have over 60,000 signatures. They say we need 100,000 for the guys inside the Beltway in DC to take notice. So if you wouldn't mind just going in there, just signing the petition, even if you don't have multiple kids, just pay it forward for all these other families. So it's going to make college it's already unaffordable, and it's just going to kill a lot of families. So if you would do that, would be awesome.
Yeah, we'd appreciate it. Sign it, share it. I just put it in the chat. Takes less than a minute. And again, like Peg said, if we're 65% of the way there, if we can get another 35%, we literally have a chance to stop this from going through. And again, if you're going to have or do have more than one kid in college at once, it could double the cost for you.
These are for the FAFSA only schools, not the CSS. And that's a whole nother cool planning opportunity around affordability. We'll do some more webinars on this. This is effective for the class of 2024, this upcoming FAFSA. So this year right now for kids that are seniors, you're in the old rules, but then it's going to change basically. All right, I'll let you take over here, Matt.
Yeah, and I would say we've had way more inquiries around appeals and all that than anything else tonight. I guess it's good we plan to spend some time on this. So the concept here, guys, is once we've got an offer from these colleges, we got accepted, and they said, here's our offer to you. How do we go back and do better? Can we do better? What are the expectations, right? And like we said at the top, we do entire presentations on this, and we're going to over the coming weeks. We're going to spend a lot of time. So we're not going to get all the way in the weeds tonight, but I do want to plant a few seeds. Now, some of the questions we had made it clear that you're not, some of you are confused, and this makes a ton of sense, on whether or not this is the full offer, right? Because it is confusing, right? A lot of these schools, you get accepted and they say, hey, you're accepted, and you got a $20,000 presidential scholarship. But is that it? Are we going to get work study? Are we going to get a loan? Is there need-based financial aid? It's not clear. Okay. The best kind of hint I can give you, or telltale sign that you've received your full offer, is that included as a part of that, there's going to be a $5,500 federal government direct student loan. Okay. FDSL, federal direct student loan. Okay. Once you see that amount in your award, That's the offer, right? Now, okay, this is a time to go back and ask for more money. Because if we've just got accepted and just got our scholarship offer, in most cases, we're going to say, sit tight, wait until you've got your complete and quote unquote final offer. And that's when we'll think about pushing back. We got a few questions around the timing of this. Should we wait until we've got all of our acceptances and all of our offers? Not necessarily. Okay. This is always a case by case basis, but a few things that we'll advise are the families that we work with on when it comes to those questions are, number one, we're only going to push back with schools that we're really considering, right? We're not going to go through these motions if this isn't a legitimate contender. Okay. So that's one thing to think about. And the other one is, if we have an offer, a full offer from one of the schools that we're legitimately thinking about, and we have other better offers, right? More generous offers from schools that are relatively comparable, that's probably enough ammunition where we can go back and start that appeal process with the school in question. If that's not the case and there's still outstanding offers out there, then we'll sit tight, right? There is absolutely some nuance to this process, as we'll talk about here. And I would say, for me, this is probably my favorite part of the process, right? I really enjoy, you got an offer. Now, how do we get really smart about going back to the school and doing better? Okay. I think Peg feels the same way. And I can probably speak for Peg in saying that literally in the last 2 days, we've got a little bit smarter here and how to appeal, because we're super fortunate, right? Where we have some really, and if you go on our website, you'll see one of the folks on our team is the director of financial aid at Harvard Medical, the director of financial aid at MIT Sloan School of Management. That's Ryan and Josh. Specifically, we met internally with Ryan yesterday, and he was just us up on some new things that we're seeing are increasing the odds of successful appeals. And one that stuck out to both of us, I know Peg and I talked about this offline after we met with Ryan, was the rule of thumb here is that retirement is not considered when assessing your financial aid eligibility. And in so many words, we poked a hole in that. Okay. So if you feel like you're a family that has an underfunded retirement, so to speak, you don't have a lot of savings in retirement, that could be grounds for an appeal. Or maybe you have a decent amount in non-retirement savings, okay, that technically that's really hurting you, but the retirement, there's not a ton in there. That can be grounds for an appeal, okay? Or if you're now aggressively funding your retirement, or you've just reached your earning potential, which I have a feeling is a ton of you, right? We just started making the money that we're making, and now we're trying to play catch up. That can be grounds for an appeal. So these are some of the things that we learned that were a little bit new, or at least reemphasized over the last couple of days. And again, we'll talk about this in a second, but you guys all have the option of meeting with Josh yourself one-on-one, or myself or Peg or Ryan one-on-one, to really maximize the odds of getting more money out of these colleges. So I know I went off the rails a little bit there, but I think it's relevant because it's brand new and it's exciting for us, at least, that we have some new criteria to bring to the table, regardless of the college we're talking to.
Yeah, there's just a lot of nuances, like with the CS profile schools, your primary home is on the table. At a lot of those schools, meaning your equity, the market value minus your debt, your mortgage or your HELOC. And yeah, like just some of the stuff they were explaining, because they're behind the scenes, right? I had a mom the other day and they have rental properties. Usually that's just, you're done, right? The colleges look at them. You could liquidate all of those. She's got $20,000 in retirement. That's her retirement. So we're putting that all out on the table. I know these properties are worth $700,000, but you asked what my retirement balances are, and they're $20,000. Like, that's my retirement fund. So there's all these nuances. Understanding how the colleges look at it is hugely valuable. So
100%. And that's what Josh was coaching us up on today.
Yeah.
Of this whole, and again, guys, it's a game on both sides of the value of your property. It's so arbitrary, right? If you're the buyer, if you're the seller, if you're a third party. Okay. But let me give you a couple of data points here before we come out and start actually doing these whole presentations here. Now, number one, it's important to bring some color and some background to this thing, right? The financial aid office is only looking at your tax returns, your FAFSA, your CS profile, right? They are number crunchers. And Peg will tell you, Ryan especially, he's a serious dude, right? It looks like I did crack a smile out of him yesterday, though, Peggy. You would have been proud of me. But these guys, they do, and gals, they have a heart here, right? And Ryan always says this example specifically, which I think it has always resonated with me. So it's very hard for me to hear that the best day of this family's life was when their kid got accepted into their dream school. And the worst day was 2 weeks later when we gave them their financial aid offer. And they're thinking, do I have to tell my kid that they can't go to the school that they've earned the right to attend? They took care of their job. And right away, that makes me just say, okay, how can I make this happen for them? I have a shift and I want to get spoon fed, make my job easier. Just go do your homework and then come back to me and say, if you come up with $7,000 more, it's still going to be a stretch for us, but we'll figure it out. We'll make it happen. Okay. And this, of course, is the time where we show competing offers. Right. So if you're right, I went to a little private school up here in the Boston area called Stonehill College. Our rivals were Bentley University. If somebody that I'm working with now wants to go to Stonehill, I make them apply to Bentley, even if they have zero intention of attending there, just to have that leverage. Or if you want to go to RPI, great engineering school in Troy, New York, I will make them apply to WPI, great engineering school in Worcester, Mass here, direct competitors. Okay. These are nonprofit institutions, but let's not kid ourselves here, right? It's a multi-billion-dollar business and some. Okay. And of course, good old fashioned persistence, right? But it's also important to say we're not being jerks here. Ryan will also remind us too, if I don't want to work with someone for the next 4 years, I'm not motivated to make this an affordable option for their family. Right. So it's important to remember that as well. And the last thing, again, that I'll flag is that oftentimes it makes a ton of sense to have the student have a voice here, especially if we're talking about appealing for more merit-based scholarships, which means we're having that conversation with the admissions office, as opposed to need-based appeals that happen with the financial aid office. We want the student to have a voice. And again, especially if it's merit-based scholarships, we want them leading the charge. Okay. Again, as you are probably hearing right now, this deserves an entire night. There's going to be multiple nights that we're going to dedicate specifically to the appeal process, but I at least want to plant some seeds because I know a percentage of you are in the thick of this right now. Peggy, if you want, we'll probably go to the next slide and talk.
Yep.
So you want to take a first crack here, Peggy? Or you want me?
Yeah. So basically, my take on this is, I feel pretty good that all of you guys have learned at least one thing that you're going to take away from this, and hopefully a lot more. But the main thing, if Matt and I did our jobs, you're going to keep this ball rolling. If you're a 23 parent, you're getting close to the end, but you're not done yet. So if that's setting up your free MyCap account, uploading your award letters, figuring out if you should be appealing, you're a DIYer, you want to do it all yourself, go for it. You can set up your free account and upload those schools, right? If you're like, yeah, I feel good, I'm learning, but I want to meet with one of your experts about appealing, about anything, right? Then we can support you in that way. And Matt's talked about some of our experts that we have. We're all schooled around this, decades of experience. We're very careful who we bring into our team. And then so that's the middle bucket here. And then, or you can just let us take the wheel. You might be thinking to yourself, oh my God, this is a lot. I have too much on my plate. Then we have something that we call Wake Me When It's Over, where we can step in and basically you're part of it, but we're doing the heavy lifting. So I'll let Matt talk about that, but I want to point out, and he said it, and we'll put it in the chat, very easy to remember. Private 20 is the coupon code for tonight. Tomorrow, you'll get your follow-up. The coupon code will be in there, but it won't be 20% off. It'll be less. So we're trying to have a sense of urgency here. If you want to book an hour with one of our experts, if you want to get the full platform upgrade, when you book an hour, you automatically get, we call it Scholar, you automatically get that upgrade. So that's $149 that you're not paying. So you pay $299 minus 20%. You have the ability to then book a meeting with one of our experts. And you don't have to book the meeting tonight. You don't have to pick who and look on calendars. You don't have to do any of that. You just pay for what we call valedictorian, and you're good to go. You can look at it tomorrow. You can look at it in 2 weeks when you're ready. You've got award letters and you want to talk to an expert, whatever you want, but then you're locking in the savings. And I always like to say, and everybody at CAP makes fun of me, but it's actually a screaming deal, right? If you know you want a meeting, if you're like, I'm never going to need a meeting, I'm a DIYer, I get this, I'm into the weeds on this, great. Upgrade your platform, do your thing, listen to all of our webinars, go to our free office hours. You're going to fall into one of these buckets. So just fall into it and then be intentional about moving forward. That's what's going to make you an informed consumer and put you in the driver's seat. So I will.
Look at it.
I've stolen your thunder. Usually you're the one that does all this.
Mind if I sell something, Peggy?
I know. All right. Let me.
How about this real-time testimonial? Jerry Solomon, I signed up for valedictorian in the spring. It is so worth it in caps. So worth it. But listen, here's what I'll say to everybody right here. Here's what I'll say to everybody right here. Okay. And this is being recorded. You all have it. So don't overthink this, guys. Sign up tonight. You get the 20% off. If for whatever reason you say, I didn't get my money's worth, we'll give 100% refund, 0 questions asked. Okay. So especially for you class 2023, where we're starting to get jam-packed with these appeal meetings, I recommend book it tonight. What is it? It comes out to $239 or whatever. You can meet with Ryan Callahan, Director of Financial Aid at Harvard, Josh DeMaio, Director of Financial Aid at MIT, myself, Peg, our team. This is what we do. We are very good at it. Our average appeal success is $10,000 ballpark.
Hey, but we're not.
I'm not guaranteeing anything. Take it easy. Take it easy, Peggy. Nothing's guaranteed. We said in the slide deck, which is true, state schools, unless we have something very tangible, are unlikely to move. Okay, are unlikely to move. But that's hopefully you obviously I'm biased here, guys, but I feel very strongly and that it's money well spent. And again, if it's not, come back and say, Matt, you were full of you know what, and I want my money back. That's that. So in terms of how to do it, if you already have your account, just go up here and click upgrade or talk to an expert and you can book it that way. Because again, we won't have this discount tomorrow or moving forward. And if you haven't created your account, just choose the valedictorian option. And that's how you can book an hour plus have the platform for a year. Now for underclassmen, for most of you 2023s, this probably won't make sense or wake me when it's over service. The only reason this would make sense is if you haven't done your FAFSA and CS profile yet. If you haven't done those yet, then you would consider it. But for the most part, this service is only for 2024, 25 type families where you get to work one-on-one with one of us from beginning to end, whenever you sign on with us until your student actually moves into the dorm is how we say it. So we help you build your list of colleges. We manually complete the financial aid applications for you, the FAFSA and the CSS profile. We're the ones that are actively appealing for more money on your behalf and then putting together a game plan with how the heck are we going to actually pay this bill. So that's all the good news, right? And it's an amazing service. It's significantly more money. It's $29.99, but with the discount tonight, it ends up being, I don't know, less than 25. You get $500 off, or I think $600 off. Something like that, if you do that. But it's only a fit if I'm putting this link in the chat here, but that's only a fit for the families that this is resonating with, right? I need somebody to take over here. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the time. I understand what's at stake. And again, I haven't checked a lot of these boxes already, which I know for a lot of you 2023 families, you already have, right? Probably FAFSA and CSS is gone. And for you, I'd say, book an hour with us though. And again, whether that's with me, Peg, Ryan, Josh, or anybody else on our team, we're super confident you're going to be in great hands. And we're good at this. We're good at being able to look at the offers that you got and help you figure out how do you go back to these schools and get more money. And again, with very few exceptions, it's a heck of a lot more than the $200 or whatever it is to book the hour with us. Does it work with public colleges like Purdue specifically? Probably not, right? Purdue would be the example of a state university that unless you had one example that wouldn't be a wildly drastic scenario is if you're a 2023 family and 2021 was an anomaly in terms of having a really high income that year or one-time distribution, then we could have a case. But my general expectation would be that for Purdue, unless we had something really material to rely on, I would be super bearish in terms of our ability to have a successful appeal. A lot of folks will still get a ton of value out of that hour just to ask any other questions you have, or talk about what loan should we take, or what should we be thinking about for subsequent years, or can you check our FAFSA to see if we made any mistakes there. But in terms of having a successful appeal, unless we have some major ammunition, we would bet against having a good result at Purdue.
Yeah, we've set up the appeals webinars, but we've scheduled them, but we don't have a Zoom link for you guys. Just watch your email. You'll all get invited. You're in our community. So
did we give the discount code? What is it, Peg?
It's private 20 here. I can put it in the chat.
Private 20, guys. That's and again, that's only not to create any urgency, but there is urgency because that'll expires at midnight. So you have some time, but it has to be tonight. We always, and for those of you that have, and I know there's a bunch of you, we always give the best deals for our, those that come out live, those that come out to the ballpark, Peggy. Those that want to watch the highlights, they'll get a little something tomorrow, but we got to reward the ones that come out to the ballpark.
Yeah. Usually somebody's asking, is appeal merit-based versus financial aid? It totally depends on what sort of, if your child got merit aid from schools that are going to consider themselves competitors, and somebody said, how do you know that? Matt always says, you can look at the sports conference they're in. That's one way, but also you want to think about it. Like, what's their average kid that they're accepting? And we have that information in MyCap under each school, under the admissions tab. Stanford isn't going to meet something from state school, for example. They're going to be like, that's not applicable. But the Ivies will all day long try and match their buddies, right? They'll do it all day. Those are super fun because you can look at them and see, okay, these guys are doing this and this, so play them off them. And then you're in the driver's seat. But they've got to be like schools. Matt gave the Bentley and Stonehill example. Like out here, we've got University of Portland and Willamette. They're really close to each other. They're gonna play ball. It just depends on the school. So you want to make sure it's apples to apples. So that's a good way to know. And it's the worst that can happen is they say, we just can't do it. But definitely tune into our webinar because people are asking questions and it's too much to type. Yeah, your student should be leading the charge. We'll tell you exactly how to do that. We even have some templates in the deck of letters that you can at least look at. So we don't hold back. We really teach you how we do it. And then we're happy to step in and help as well.
Yeah, just stay tuned. Well, we haven't picked our dates for our appeal presentations yet, I don't think, but it'll be we'll do 2 or 3 more over the coming weeks from now until the very beginning of April. But, and I got a question, can we meet tonight? We won't be able to meet tonight. I'm sure you can get somebody tomorrow, but tonight will be Peggy, unless you're up for it.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not that dedicated.
I got nothing left in the tank here tonight, and I'm sorry, and I don't mean to minimize the stress that I'm sure you're under. I'm not trying to do that, but all right, guys, great questions, super engagement, and we always appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you're learning something, and that's our goal, right, Peggy? We got to make sure that you're taking at least something away here. And if you're having a good experience or you're learning stuff, please share it with others, right, that might benefit.
Yeah. Share it with others, share it with your school. Go into the school and tell them about us because we're really trying to educate in the school districts too. We're trying to help the counselors and do our educational webinars for schools. So that's awesome. If you go in and say, hey, these guys are great. I learned so much from the webinar. Tell them to email us at support@collegeapro.com. We'd love to talk to them about how we can come into the school and do virtual. We don't charge for our virtual webinars for schools, just like we don't charge you guys. So that's a really wonderful thing. So if people are asking what time tomorrow, go into your MyCap. Yeah. Click on talk with an expert or upgrade in that top right corner, like Matt showed you. If you've already paid, then you'll be able to pick first available and it'll tell you are you in there, Matt, right now?
I'm looking right now. And so you'll be able to pick first available. And even I'll tell you, even especially if you've already paid or if you want to pay tonight, right into support@collegeaidpro.com or through the chat here. If the first available still seems like it's later than you would like, and again, it's not going to happen tonight, guys, I'm sorry, but I'm confident we can find multiple time slots for you tomorrow. Even if you don't see any, just write in and we can, I don't want to promise anything, but I can all but guarantee you we'll be able to get folks to make it happen for you. Yeah, so that's what I'd recommend.
All right. Well, have a great night, everybody.
Peggy, go take care of yourself. Come on now, pal. We need you healthy. We got a long season ahead of us.
I'm on the road. I'm on the road. I'm on the road to recovery. So we will see you guys on the next webinar and keep that ball rolling. All right. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.